Breaking news here in Bonkers Britain, where there's a story it seems the mainstream aren't keen to carry into this week, which is the story of the non-English speaking Ukrainian bumboy that set fire to Keir Starmer's apartment, his home, his old car and all sorts of other things. Rumour has it the bumboy was recommended to Keir by Zelensky, who'd used him often and found his services to be very enjoyable. More on that, I'm sure.
Katie Hopkins goes full verbal demolition on Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. And trust me, it's like watching a political car crash in slow motion. But you can't look away. Who knew politics could get this savage? Will Starmer survive the roast? Is Reeves ready for the clapback? Spoiler, nope. Stick around because this verbal smackdown is about to break the internet and your sides. Let's dive in.
Good morning, it's Keir here. My director of strategy, who's a right ginger, has said that I should explain our new policy on migration very simply. So before, we loved illegals. We couldn't get enough of illegals. Illegals, come, welcome. I helped bring them in. I put them in hotels. I also love a Rwandan. I love me a stubby Rwandan. In fact, I love all illegals because they are the ones that vote for us. So if you go to any of the Labour strongholds, Luton, Leicester, Birmingham, Bradford, all you'll find is Muslims, and we can buy their vote for 20 quid.
If politics were a reality show, Katie Hopkins just walked onto the set carrying a wrecking ball, and the targets, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. The Labour leadership thought they were running a tight ship, but Katie showed up like a surprise storm, with no warning, ready to toss the whole crew overboard. And trust me, this wasn't your usual polite political sparring, it was a no-holds-barred demolition. And the aftermath? Let's just say it left a crater where credibility once stood.
Comrades, my name is Keir Starmer, and I'm here. When I became your Prime Minister, not only did I get new hair and glasses provided by a donor who now has full access to 10 Downing Street and my bedroom, we were promised three things. Number one, we would be fully costed and fully funded. We're so fully funded and fully costed, we're essentially just like Katie Price, or HS2, or the public sector in Argentina pre-Milei, depending on your sense of humour. In order to make the £22 billion hole in the budget even worse, we have spunked a whole bunch of cash at train drivers and...
First, let's talk about Keir Starmer, the man who seems to have mastered the art of looking like he's stuck in a never-ending meeting that could have been an email. Starmer's leadership has been a bit like a lukewarm cup of tea. There's effort, sure, but nothing that wakes you up or excites you. Katie took one look at Starmer's carefully curated image and basically asked, who signed off on this corporate blandness? Because leading a political party isn't about memorising law textbooks and speaking like a lawyer defending a parking ticket. It's about connecting, inspiring, and in newsflash, actually sounding like you want to win.
Breaking news here in batshit bonkers Britain, where inflation is up to 3.5%. So just as ordinary British people realise they can't afford to buy anything, maybe even to eat, they get hit with another fine, probably a speeding fine, for doing 23 miles an hour in a 20 zone. Old Rachel Reeves, ceramic bobhead, hair by Lego, said, "This is all part of my plan for growth." She spelt growth with two F's. That's what you get for being the sash bint at the Halifax, I guess.
But instead, Starmer has been wobbling between cautious pragmatism and vague promises, which Katie shredded like a pro, feeding an embarrassing high school diary into an industrial office shredder on live TV, while laughing. He's trying so hard not to offend anyone that he's managed to inspire exactly no one. His idea of bold leadership is basically political beige, inoffensive, neutral, and instantly forgettable. If charisma were currency, Starmer would be bankrupt and applying for a charisma bailout from the Bank of Boredom.
Here's the thing, Keir. I've had a thought that fixes a lot of your problems. So, you're looking to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, specifically Kyiv. I thought, why don't you get all the people that had a Ukraine flag on their social media profile? Obviously, they had to take down their NHS one and their LGBTQ one to put up the Ukraine one. But those people, and the people who took in a Ukrainian into their homes like a little pet, you know, just for Christmas. The people that are like, oh yeah, we've got one. Yeah, we've got a Ukrainian family. Yeah. We've got a Ukrainian family, yeah, because we're a better kind of person.
She gleefully pointed out that under Starmer's reign of relentless mediocrity, Labour's poll numbers have done what you'd expect if you left a helium balloon in a room full of toddlers with forks, deflating at an impressive, almost artistic rate. It's performance art in how not to energise a base. For a man who promised to rebuild trust and reignite hope, his delivery has had all the emotional resonance of an annual budget spreadsheet. Neat, tidy and entirely sleep-inducing. The so-called steady hand image Labour PR is desperately clinging to. It looks less like a calming influence and more like someone trying to steer a ship while checking the manual every 5 seconds. Katie didn't just poke holes in that narrative, she set it on fire, tap danced around it and mailed the ashes to whoever thought steady and safe was still a winning electoral strategy in 2025. The iceberg of voter apathy is real, and Starmer's Titanic is cruising straight at it, guided by a man who thinks blinking twice in a press conference counts as excitement. And it's no secret that Labour's enthusiasm gap is now roughly the size of the Grand Canyon, only without the scenic views. The grassroots energy that once powered rallies and packed halls is now reduced to polite nods and a few weary retweets. The base is exhausted, the middle is sceptical, and the swing voters, they've probably wandered off to check out what the Lib Dems are up to, which tells you just how dire things are.
I know I am the first female ever to be in politics and to be Chancellor ever in 800 years. Obviously Maggie Thatcher was up against it 50 years ago when she was actually Prime Minister, but we don't talk about her anymore, and we've taken her picture off the walls of number 10 Downing Street. I am the first woman ever to be in politics. I am basically Kamala Harris without being able to play the black card or doing so many blowies. However, I have seen Angela Rayner's ginger growler. She was in charge of signage, and because she's working class, we haven't quite spelt it correctly.
Katie's take: Starmer's leadership is about as thrilling as watching paint dry in Parliament, while the paint lectures you on fiscal responsibility and the importance of regulatory oversight. There's no fire, no fight, just a monotonous drone that makes people want to switch channels, switch leaders, and, increasingly, switch parties. The man could give a speech on revolution and still sound like he's reading instructions for assembling a bookshelf. The party desperately needs a leader who can rally the troops and energise the voters, not someone who looks like they'd rather be filing paperwork in a back office or alphabetising a stack of broken promises, someone with guts, vision, or at the very least, a pulse. But instead they've got Keir, an accountant, trapped in a lawyer's body trying to cosplay as a Prime Minister. And according to Katie, that's not just uninspiring, it's electoral malpractice. Then came the economic hit. Rachel Reeves, Labour's shadow chancellor, has been trying to convince the public that she has the magic formula to fix the economy. Spoiler alert, Katie wasn't buying it. She skewered Reeves' policies as a baffling blend of economic jargon and wishful thinking that would make even the most optimistic financial advisor cringe. The economic plans looked like they were designed during a very long coffee break, with plenty of buzzwords but little substance.
Keir Starmer has been in Italy with Meloni. So you've got a left-wing, radical left-wing human rights guy over with what would be labelled as far-right Meloni in Italy. Now, I appreciate many of you will know much of this already, but it bears repeating at some level. Firstly, Meloni has been very successful at getting migrant numbers down. She's done that by, number one, hitting where they leave. So Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, she's making deals with those guys to stop the boats.
Katie mocked Reeves' ability to inspire confidence, suggesting that the public might have a better shot at understanding cryptocurrency mining than deciphering Labour's economic strategy. You know it's bad when people are more confused by your budget plans than they are by their TV remote controls. The Labour Party's attempt to present a competent alternative on the economy under Reeves just ended up sounding like a clumsy rehearsal for a play nobody wanted to see. And here's the kicker. Katie didn't just stop at the policies. She painted a picture of Reeves as a political figure who's so disconnected from everyday people that her economic plans might as well be written in a secret language only understood by accountants and hedge fund managers. If economic policies had a charisma meter, Reeves would be somewhere in the negative digits. This verbal smackdown wasn't just about roasting individuals. It was a broader indictment of the Labour Party's direction under these two. Katie made it clear that the duo's approach to leadership and economic planning wasn't just uninspiring, it was actually damaging the party's chances. The public isn't just hungry for change, they're starving for authenticity and boldness. And the Labour team's menu currently reads like bland, reheated leftovers.
Batshit bonkers Britain, where we find out Sky News is no more. No one's watching it, so it's going behind a paywall. One thing's for certain, if people didn't watch it when it was free, they're not going to pay to watch it behind a paywall, are they? Stronger bosses would just clear out the whole place, and all Sky News employees are now on indeed.co.uk looking for new jobs. We remember a time when Beth Rigby and Kay Burley told us to lock down whilst they were out partying. Funny how karma comes and bites you in the ass, isn't it, Kay? In other news, Jewish people rightly upset because on Holocaust Memorial Day...
The reaction? Predictably, Katie's fiery commentary lit up social media faster than a Christmas tree in a lightning storm. Some applauded her for speaking the brutally honest truth, while others dismissed her as the perennial political provocateur. But either way, the message was loud and clear. Labour's top brass needs a serious reality check. Meanwhile, Starmer and Reeves stayed silent, leaving the field open for Katie's words to echo unchallenged. No rebuttals, no clarifications, just the awkward sound of political crickets. It's like watching a boxer take punches in the ring without throwing a single jab back, hoping the round will just end soon. This episode was more than just a political roast. It was a spotlight on the leadership crisis brewing within Labour. It showed how a lack of clear vision and dynamic leadership can turn a party's promise into a punchline. And Katie Hopkins, love her or hate her, reminded everyone that sometimes the harshest truths come wrapped in the sharpest barbs. So, what's the takeaway here? If politics is about winning hearts and minds, then Starmer and Reeves are currently losing both, thanks in part to their cautious, uninspired approach. Katie Hopkins didn't just tear into their personas, she highlighted the very real challenges Labour faces in convincing the public they have what it takes to lead.
Keir Starmer having an affair with his voice coach. I know, dog. I know. Disbelief. I mean, I think we all have some questions, don't we? Question 1. Why do guys always have affairs with people that look exactly like the wife they already had? I mean, if you've already got that wife, what's the point of having an affair with another woman who looks exactly the same as the wife that you apparently don't want? Why not pick someone, you know, super exciting, maybe with massive boobs, or a lady from another continent with an enormous bottom? I mean, just something completely different to what you've already got. Why are you still shopping in the same supermarket?
And let's be honest, if your political opponents are knocking on your door with a wrecking ball, maybe it's time to rethink your strategy. Because in today's world, voters want bold, clear and confident leadership, not the equivalent of a political snooze button. The Katie Quake wasn't just a one-woman show. It set off tremors that could be felt from Westminster to the last Wi-Fi router on Twitter. Within minutes of her verbal carpet bombing, the internet did what it does best, explode into a high-speed, high-drama food fight. Supporters of Katie were practically erecting statues in her honour, made entirely of angry newspaper clippings. Finally, someone said it, they shouted, as if she'd cracked the Da Vinci Code of British politics by pointing out the obvious while wielding sarcasm like a chainsaw. In one corner, you had the Hopkins enthusiasts sipping lukewarm instant coffee and nodding vigorously at their screens. They praised her for cutting through the noise like she was some political Marie Kondo, decluttering Labour's nonsense with blunt force trauma. According to them, Katie wasn't being cruel, she was being clarifying. Like a meteor made of truth, crashing into the soft, buttery terrain of Labour's delusion. And then there were the critics. Oh, the critics. Keyboard warriors and political commentators alike flocked to the scene like seagulls to a chip.
Keir Starmer says he's going to have a peace talk for Ukraine. Peace talks for Ukraine. Oh, yes, I'm going to have peace talks. Yeah, so what did you do for the last 3 years? Oh, yeah, bugger all. And now Trump's coming to fix the problem and you want some of his success? Please, you're like a tick on a bloody dog. The last time the EU leaders were together, they took their jackets off in solidarity with Zelensky. Oh, do you think he'll take me up the We've never seen anything this gay since the last time, I don't know, Macron and Bruce.
They called her unhinged, unnecessary, unhelpful, and those were the polite ones. But even they couldn't deny that she'd touched a nerve. The kind of nerve that makes even the most sedated focus group suddenly jolt awake and ask, wait, is she right? The media, meanwhile, split right down the middle like a stale custard tart. Right-wing outlets licked their lips, spinning her tirade into a headline bonanza. Left-leaning pundits rolled their eyes so hard they nearly saw their own spines. Some tried to ignore her altogether, hoping the storm would pass. Spoiler, it didn't. It was a Category 5 political roast, and once the flame was lit, there was no putting it out. Not with all these soggy policy pamphlets in Labour HQ combined. As for Starmer and Reeves, well, let's just say the silence was not golden. It was more like damp beige. Neither offered a response. Not a whisper, not a sigh, not even the classic political move of issuing a statement so vague it could double as a weather forecast. The Labour bunker went on full lockdown, presumably trying to figure out whether acknowledging Katie would dignify her or validate every word. So instead, they deployed their favourite strategy: pretend nothing happened and hope everyone forgets. It's the political equivalent of hiding behind the curtain and hoping the burglars leave.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves, ceramic bobhead, hair by Lego, dress by Lord Ali, fresh from Keir Starmer shitter, and heating provided by the taxpayer. My speechwriter says this speech is about being together. He says to smile, say our and we, and collective endeavour. Together, collective endeavour, our we.
Insiders within Labour, they talked, but only in the kind of hushed tones usually reserved for discussing family scandals or dodgy chicken at the office buffet. Some called for stronger messaging. Others suggested it might be time to reconnect with the base. Translation, they're panicking harder than a minister who just saw their old tweets resurfaced. But this wasn't just about hurt feelings or media squabbles. It was a microcosm of the larger, festering identity crisis plaguing Labour like a bad rash. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Katie's brutal commentary resonated because there's a vacuum where leadership should be. The public isn't stupid. They know when they're being sold reheated slogans in shiny packaging. Hopkins didn't invent the criticism. She just amplified what many were already whispering in pubs, break rooms, and passive-aggressive WhatsApp groups. That's the bigger picture. This wasn't just about one woman tearing into two politicians. This was a symptom of a much deeper problem in British politics: a lack of vision, a crisis of authenticity, a leadership void the size of the Millennium Dome. And whether you love Katie Hopkins or think she's a walking Daily Mail comment section with a microphone, she understands one thing: the importance of narrative. In today's political landscape, being technically right doesn't matter nearly as much as being loudly convincing.
Starmer is failing harder than cheap toilet paper. He can't keep his own in order at this point. He's lied about simply everything from pensions to taxation to monetary policy, and now he's going to raise council tax by 10%. He even broke rules during lockdown when he had his vocal coach over to give him some lessons, and she did a pretty poor job because he still sounds like he's got a major stinking cold even when he's denying stuff he obviously did.
And Hopkins, she's convincing all right, not because she's gentle, not because she's nuanced, but because she strikes a chord with voters who feel left out of the conversation entirely. In a country fed up with polished speeches and sterilised statements, sometimes it takes a political Molotov cocktail to get anyone's attention. Labour, meanwhile, is still stuck wondering if their PowerPoint slides will inspire the nation. Spoiler alert, they won't. And if Starmer and Reeves don't figure that out fast, they might find themselves steamrolled, not just by their political opponents, but by the very people they claim to represent. People who are rapidly losing patience with lectures and longing for leadership. So here's the million-pound question. In a world where raw, unapologetic rhetoric seems to shape public opinion faster than any manifesto ever could, who's really winning? The ones who play safe, or the ones who speak loud? And if Katie's wrecking ball just shook the Labour House down to its foundations, who exactly is going to rebuild it? Or maybe the better question is, who can? In the end, Katie's savage takedown was more than entertainment. It was a wake-up call. Whether Labour listens or continues to stumble forward in this lacklustre fashion remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, the next election isn't going to be kind to those who fail to inspire. So, as the dust settles on this verbal battlefield, Labour is left with some serious questions. How do you win back trust when your leaders seem content to play it safe? Can Starmer and Reeves pivot from polite politicking to passionate leadership? Or will Katie's words be remembered as the moment the public finally saw through the political curtain? Either way, this episode proved one thing beyond doubt. Katie Hopkins didn't just throw shade, she unleashed a full-on political hurricane. And Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, well, they're still picking up the pieces.